friends, this is Jazz, finally bringing you the overdue review of Vamp the Lost Soul Volume 5, Aftermath, After the Hunters. So, this review is going to be in a similar vein like last time, that I didn't spoil the whole thing, but I talked a bit about each area in it. But this time it will be a little bit more challenging because it's confined to 4 particular segments, and each segment, all of it is less action-packed than the previous 4 volumes, which honestly for me is amazing. Obviously I don't mind action and things, right? But for me, the fact that I relate to the characters so much is the biggest reason I go into this series. I love the characterization of each character. So the fact that they focus more on that is amazing, but at the same time, and this is something for, like, it's hard to give away, not to give away things when I'm doing this review. But if you do want a more in-depth, of each chapter, go see Manga ETC. He does things like that, so for those who want, again, he gives away more than I do. So if you want a bit more information on the stories, go see him. But if you just want to know, like, what I think of it, stay for the ride. But I will have to give away some things because, well, it'll be hard to say my opinion if I don't. So there's 4 segments, and I'm going to say a little bit about each segment and my opinion on these segments, and then overall my opinion on this volume. The first segment focuses mainly on Nika and Regina, Nika's new long-lost half-sister, and like how their relationship is, and how Regina knew Nika's parents, right? And I mean blood parents, right? I mean, I think she heard of the adopted parents, but because they were friends with Nika's blood parents. But Regina's father is Nika's father. And Mira, honestly, I'm sorry, but for some reason, Nika's father it's harder to remember his name. Maybe I'll find it and I'll include it in there. It was so long since I read, about over 2 years since I read the first volume. But last time it was warranted to read all of them. This time I felt like from what I read, I could read it as a standalone, which again was probably a mistake. But anyway, the whole point is the heavy focus on this segment was Mira out of the 2. So if they we'll just say that Regina and Nika watched a heartwarming video from her to both of them, and she finally agrees to let Nika somewhat move on a little bit. She was so protective of him prior when she took him because she felt he wasn't being protected. But now she's allowing him to eventually leave under the conditions that he trains to learn to be able to battle again and control himself. So, again, I find that we get to know a lot more of this character. That she means well. She's afraid to lose Nika, but the fact she's given him another chance thanks to Mira is amazing. And I love the new bodyguard. Like, technically he was Regina's butler, but he was Nika's bodyguard. I just find him so sweet, but understand, like, whatever, like, an understanding, like, he does whatever is told, but he's, like, not a complete, what's the best word? He isn't, like, a real stern guy. He's one of those bodyguards that you wouldn't mind living with, in a way. So, the next segment goes on with Rang Fang. He is having severe PTSD after murdering Buzz in their battle. He feels that he's lost control of his self and his life and feels like a monster, and honestly, it's because of his mother, Liz, that he is able to kind of learn, at least start to heal a little bit. Liz takes him to her former lieutenant and train instructor, McClellan. Okay, I apologize for the pronunciation of the name. It is a harder name to pronounce. A name I've never heard before, but we'll say McClay, right? But it's MC or Milky, MLCHEY, I believe. So guys, take that as you will, how I spelled it, but honestly, I did sort of spoil a lot of this segment, so I'm just going to stop there. I just loved the relationship between Liz and Ranfang, how Liz can relate to having to kill all those people in the area he was in, so she can relate to her son in a way, and I just find that relationship beautiful, and I just hope Ranfang learns to control himself. That's the point of this whole training. So, the next segment is about Kaz. Now, she's the one who's probably suffering the least mentally, but she has suffered a lot, losing both her arms. She has to learn how to deal with it, especially the fact that she feels she can't do her favorite hobbies, doing it, like video games and inventing. And you could argue, oh well, if that is the worst she's going through, well, you gotta understand that with Kaz's mentality, her inventing and her video games mean the world to her. It isn't just a simple hobby, that you have to give up. It's what's the best word to use it? It'd be just like her losing someone, in a way. Less severe, obviously, in hindsight, and I'm sure if she really did lose someone that meant something to her, she would be very devastated. But she can relate more to her hobbies than to people. So for her, losing or seemingly losing that ability to enjoy them, it's like it took part of her life with her. So, I mean, logically, she isn't suffering as bad as the others, but really, in her own way, she's lost a big part of who she is. Now, this also deals with Joanna and Lockdown. Or Rina, I believe, R-I-N-A. I'm trying to remember the names right. Lockdown feels guilty about what happened to Kaz, and she wants to, it seems like she wants to genuinely help her, but Joanna is still not trusting of her sister after what Lockdown did. And we'll just say, in this segment, everyone's trying to work things out a little bit. And surprisingly, Clive, Kaz's father, has a somewhat of a part in it too, just not as much as Ranfang's mother Liz did. So here we try to figure out that the hashing out between sisters and what is good for Kaz's well-being. We'll just say that they don't want her to be a cyborg, like what happened to Lockdown. They want to do it as, authentically as possible. Like, she wants them to be as close to her authentic self and not have anything wired into her brain. But she still wants her to be able to get some semblance of normalcy back to her, so... And we leave it, we don't know what's gonna happen, but I find in some ways that I relate to this segment the most. Obviously, the character didn't suffer in the way the others have, but to her, the way she suffered means just as much. And if I got into a situation like that, I would be devastated. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Now, guys, I'm about to share a bit of a personal story here, so just keep that in mind. But I am still trying to keep on topic of this review. About 4 to 5 years ago, there was a possibility that I was going to go in for surgery. Because if I didn't go in for surgery, there was a apparently a big possibility that in the next 10 or so years, I'd be in a wheelchair. Why is that? I have scoliosis. And according to one doctor, it was getting worse, and if I didn't get surgery soon, you would be paralyzed, like you wouldn't be able to walk anymore. Thank heavens that never ended up happening. Thank heavens we had a second opinion by the surgeon himself, who had a couple of looks, and it wasn't progressing as bad as that first doctor said. He said, sure, if I want it to be a professional model or do something serious along that line, sure, I should get the surgery. But if I plan just to live the way that I'm living, I don't need it. I'm not going to be stuck in a wheelchair. So, but if that had come true, I mean, the surgery may have rectified it. But if that had come true and somehow things didn't work out and I was in a wheelchair, I would have been affected greatly. Now, not as much as Kaz would have been without her arms, because I would still be able to play video games and the like of that, but because of my IBS, I go a lot to the bathroom, and being in a wheelchair and being able to maneuver everywhere would be very challenging, especially because the only bathroom at the time, and even now, the only bathrooms are upstairs. So we'd have to have a workaround for that. But for me, I'm affected worse than some people. I have a hard time handling things. So the fact that my whole life could have changed within the next 10 years, 20 years is scary. And the fact that Kaz had to do that so instantaneous and in a worse case scenario is horrifying. So I do relate to this segment the most emotionally, and I feel Kaz is the character I emotionally relate to the most. Finally, the final segment on Jess. She is mentally going through a lot too, dealing with the fact that her mother had apparently come back after abandoning her. And honestly, I agree with her after my last review. Anna is a big a-hole. She was a big hypocrite, right? Saying, fine, you can die, and then suddenly, oh, she's my little girl. I still cannot get over that after 2 years, guys. Almost 3 years. I still can't get over that. But she just feels she can't fight anymore. Not until she confronts her mother for what she's done to them. And this segment is pretty much, just with Jasper and her going through that. I mean, surprisingly, Jasper's a lot more forgiving than Jess is. Say that, as being a cop, Anna had to be careful, right? She knew what it was like to lose people, and she was having it hard. But we'll just say that some things are about to get heated. But there is this adorable, not as much as poor Donnie, but this so hilarious new character named Gob Rock. So far, I'm sorry, James, tell me the gender. They're just a delight. They're attention relief through the whole segment, I believe, and which is needed. Honestly, guys, how do I feel about this segment? It was the shortest, I believe, of the bunch, in my opinion, but I do feel Jess's feelings. I always hated what Anna did to Jasper and Jess. And I know, compared to some things that someone could do to a child, that is quite forgivable. I mean, it's not like she actually killed Jess or well, she tried to kill Jasper. But again, in that way, I guess it was somewhat self-defense, self-justified, right? But the fact that the way she left them, right? After being so keen on protecting Jess, and then when she actually freaks out, she leaves. Now, I could sort of understand if Jess was in her right frame of mind when she had done it, right? That she had tried to kill her mother just because she was angry but had control. But the fact that she was young and had no control and don't think she even recalled what she did, Anna should have understood that more and been there to support her. Thank heavens for Jasper, who's fighting off his illness just to protect his little girl from everything, even if he could seem a little overprotective. That's better than not being there at all, like Anna did. So, but yeah, guys, this volume was more, what's the best word for it? Like character depth than actual action, which I read this volume in like 3 days, unlike the week it took for all the others for me to process. So I absolutely love this about it. So guys, honestly, it was an honor working with James again, and I appreciate the opportunity to read this series and review it for him. If you want to support James, there's links down below to everything that is currently running. His Patreon, his Twitch, his YouTube, his DeviantArt, everything that means a lot to him. Please check these out and support him. This is about him and not about me in any way. I just feel honored enough to be able to review this series. And another shout out to Manga ETC, who does a lot more in-depth reviews of each, nightmare, each segment. So if you want a full-on spoilers review, or semi-spoilers review, go to him as well to see what he thinks of it. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, like what you see, you may subscribe. It will help this channel a lot. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you'll know when new videos are coming out. And I'll see you guys in my next video.